All right, we're talking quarterbacks, guys, quarterback targets and Field. I kind of want to start with you. We've mentioned this a few times. We're going through this big mock draft exercise, right, at ESPN. And as we're doing that, one of the positions, obviously, that has a different kind of strategy because you only draft one of these guys to start is the quarterback spot. So I want to ask you, it's kind of three questions. Is there anybody that you find yourself targeting the most within these drafts? Where are they coming off the board, and why specifically are you targeting that quarterback?
Well, mostly I want to spite you, Daniel, because I've been taking Josh Allen the most.
Okay,
Josh, who
that's
I've
fair.
taken
That's fair.
4 times. And what's interesting about this is that I've taken him in the 4th round each time as well.
Okay.
So it's a 12-team mock draft. We've done, 16 of them, I believe, with, I think, another 14 ahead, including 8 this week. But yeah, Josh, 4 out of 16 times. So 25% of the time I've taken Josh Allen, and it's always occurred in the 4th round. Now, obviously, different spots of the 4th round, but I think Josh will end up going about a round sooner than that in, I would say, drafts that are, I was going to say real drafts, but these are, yeah, real drafts. When real drafts begin, when people who aren't in the industry and don't know each other's like nuances and draft ticks like the
Sure.
12 of us seem
Yeah.
to know each other. But I have found, so I have taken the latest I've taken a quarterback is round 11, which I've done on 3 occasions. So I think the strategy here with these mock drafts, and we talked about this a bit on prior shows, is it's actually kind of like educating yourself for the season. Like it's simulating how drafts will go now so that when you're actually, when the money is on the line and you're doing your real drafts, is it worth taking that quarterback early? And while I actually like some of the outcomes when I waited Joe Burrow in the 8th, Jaden
Mhm.
Daniels and Brock Purdy in the 11th, I got to be honest with you. Josh Allen has been such a certainty over the past 3, 4, 5 years in fantasy, including back to back years as the highest overall scorer, that
Yep.
while in almost every case he is the first quarterback taken off the board, and beginning the train is not always the best practice at quarterback and tight end, especially this year. I've been happy with my Josh Allen outcomes because of the fact that it's taking place in round 3. If it's the end of round 2, which I think it will be in a lot of real life drafts, I feel a little bit less comfortable with it. But given the value in round 4, I'm okay with the guy that my quarterback 1. And wouldn't surprise me if, even despite the departures of Stephon Diggs and also Gabe Davis, will be just fine this year.
I think that's interesting. And Mike, I kind of want to get to know your thoughts because one of the things that we talk about, and I kind of agree with Fields here. One of the things that I'm looking for at the quarterback is those boom weeks, right? Such a high
Mhm.
floor, has the ability to literally win you a week. Some of those top quarterbacks can do, but I know that there's value available as well. You don't just need to go out and grab a quarterback early. I'm going to save my thoughts. I'll share them in a minute. But Mike, I want to ask you the same question. How are you approaching these quarterback
Yeah,
drafts?
so I'm with Field with Josh Allen. I've drafted him twice as well, which is honestly a big number when we've only done 13 to 15 drafts, something like that. But I have taken 2 quarterbacks 4 times, Jalen Hertz and Joe Burrow. So both of those are kind of at different levels. The thing is, and Field, you pointed to like there's value in waiting at quarterback, especially in 10-team leagues. I also think that, with like last year was Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, right? We had our big 3 at quarterback, and then it was kind of like another tier after that. You kind of had to pick your spot. I feel like, Mahomes is down a little bit. Jalen Hurts potentially his rushing is down a little bit. Obviously, the perception of him is a little bit lower. No Jason Kelsey, the things that have changed. And Josh Allen, as you mentioned, lost quite a few of his targets. That big 3 has kind of dropped and kind of brought the field closer together, which to me, with everyone kind of being closer together, allows me to wait a little bit longer. In our drafts, I have found some value. Again, I've taken Hurts 4 times. I think he's kind of the forgotten man at the top. Still has been terrific the last 3 seasons, top 4 in fantasy points per snap, a top 3 scorer each of the last 2 years. He's been awesome. He's still going to run a ton. We know that. So I'm fine with him. But you mentioned Joe Burrow. I mean, he has been my favorite value target. I mean, last year, after that slow start, was 4th in fantasy points per game. The year before that, he was the number 4 scoring fantasy quarterback. He's just coming so cheap in drafts after all these other guys go. If I can get him in the 7th, 8th round, I'm going to do that all day long. It's such a pass-heavy offense. He's so good, and when he's healthy, he could run as well. So
If
you have a lot of ways to attack quarterback. You do.
you go, Field.
I have a question for you, Daniel.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to make a board bet for somebody else?
Ooh, I don't know, but I want to hear what this is about. I'll
I
decide in
feel
a
like
minute.
Yeah, Mike and Stefania need to make some sort of Joe Burrow board bet because I feel like they're on opposite ends of the spectrum on this one, right? It seems like Stefania's. I feel like her thoughts on Joe different from Mike's thoughts on Joe because of the situation he's coming back from with the wrist thumb deal. So let's
Yep.
table that one. But in August, I'll let them actually make their own board bet because it'd be a fascinating conversation.
Well-
But Mike, I lean towards the Mike side on that one, just for the record, because I think this is a revenge tour season from Cincinnati. I feel great about Joe and Jamar Chase, maybe even greater about Jamar Chase than ever, because I am just a touch skeptical about T. Higgins, as we talked about.
Right.
Like, he's just one tight hamstring away from being out for a while because he has to protect himself. But I sort of made a board bet there for Mike and Stefania. We will finish that thought once the two of them are in the same room.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I
ask-
might have been. Let me just add, I might have been a little on the fence about that, but I just saw the report that Joe Burrow, to fix his wrist, is playing piano. Like, that's his trick now to get his kind of wrist in shape. So that changes everything. So I'm with you. I'll take any and all board bets on Joe Burrow. I'm in.
All right, sweet. I'm tone deaf, so I can't even play the recorder. So congratulations to you, Joe.
Well, let me ask you this. Given everything, because Field, that was the question I was going to basically ask Mike, knowing how Stefania feels when you grab Joe Burrow where are you getting him? The 8th round, give or take, when he falls to you? Are you definitively, are those the leagues that you're drafting that second quarterback just in case there is an injury risk there? Mike Clay? That's a Mike Clay question.
Oh, me? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry,
Mike, when he says your name,
I was
right,
thinking
yeah.
about
The piano.
I was thinking about I was thinking about where I could order a piano, what songs I could learn on the piano. So that's where my head was.
I have a 2-year-old's
so
piano, if you want that.
I will take it. I'll take it. I used to have one of the little electric ones as a kid. I would write my own songs and all that kind of stuff. So they're all great, of course.
8 plus 7 is 15. That's how many fantasy points I will project one day when I'm a professional at ESPN. That was my impersonation of what Mike was probably
That was
singing
good,
about back then.
Field. I like that.
Thank you.
I would do the stats first, and then I would write the music for the commercials and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
the album
anyway,
name was A dot over air yards.
Yeah, I have a folder here with some of all my nerdy stats from when I was a kid. I should pull that out and show you all. You'll lose so much respect for me, or gain it. Who knows?
Or gain, yeah, one of the two.
Yeah. So anyway, there's a question in there somewhere. Yeah, look, I don't, especially in 10-team leagues, I'm not that adamant about getting a second quarterback. It's just, there's just so many options that are going to be on waivers when the draft is over. So I'm not super worried about that, but we'll keep an eye on it closer to the season. If there really are standing issues with Burrow, maybe I'm more likely to just throw a flyer to rookie or a Will Levis or, someone like that. We'll talk about values at some point in the show, but Jaylen Daniels is another guy you can take a shot at, but nothing. I'm rarely super aggressive about getting a second quarterback when I have someone like Joe Burrow.
Okay. So then let's run through these. I got a handful of things. Let's play a little game. We're going to target a guy. We're going to table him, maybe for later in the draft, save him in case he's good value and he falls to us, or you're going to toss him from your draft list altogether. All right?
Okay.
Target, table, or toss.
Oh.
All three of us, we're kind of going to go rapid fire. Field, I'm going to ask you first. Anthony Richardson seems easy because I've heard you talk about him earlier.
Yeah, target. And just a heads up, if my Scott Fishbowl pick takes place during the recording of this show, it will be Anthony Richardson if he makes it there to me.
All right. Mike, you targeting him as well?
Yeah, look, it's all based on ADP value. I'm looking at this from a value angle, so I have to toss this one. I haven't drafted him at all. He's just going too early. Let me give you one quick nugget. The earliest Joe Burrow has gone is 60th in our drafts. The latest Richardson has gone is 54th. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm just not going to take Richardson. As good as I think his ceiling is, it's just not worth it. There's just too many other values at quarterback.
All right. How about, Mike, I'm going to start with you in this one. Kyler Murray. I mean, talk about a guy that I feel like has not gotten as much love as he could have. We've seen him utilize his legs. Are you targeting him, tabling him, or tossing him?
Yeah, I think it's kind of in the middle of target/table. I'll lean toward target. Just he's going after like the top 8. So if I've drafted him once in our leagues, if he falls a little bit, I'm happy to take Kyler. I think he's a fine mid to back end QB1.
I'm targeting him as well. Field, what about you?
Yeah, I'm targeting him. Hey, Mike, have some conviction, will you? We're not debating what we're like. When you go to the restaurant and someone says, do you want the enchiladas or do you want the burritos? You don't say, well, I want a bite of the enchiladas and then like a part of the burrito. This is your chance. Be fearless, Mike.
No way. My favorite dining experience is tasting menus. So I'm fine. I'm fine getting them all. I want a piece of everything.
We should go to what's that place? We should go to Zohara sometime in West Hartford.
There you go.
I've been there. I've been there. I've had it. I've had it. Yeah.
Thanks for the invite. We'll do it again sometime soon. Great food. Anyways, I'm targeting Kyler too. And I think people need to hear this. And I know we talk about this frequently on this show. But again, when you're doing so many leagues like we are, right, it's easier to have multiple targets at quarterback. If I were playing in just one league, maybe even two leagues, and Anthony Richardson is going in an incredibly early spot in those two leagues, it's probably not going to be me. Like I am going to be, let's say, conservative. I would say more pragmatic when I play in just a couple of leagues. But when you play in a bunch, yes, I'm going to be targeting Anthony Richardson some, but the counter to that is that there's going to be a league where Tyler Fulgham or somebody else jumps ahead of me on the Anthony Richardson train. And then I say to myself, screw it. I'll just wait for Kyler and get him in round 10 because there's a pretty darn good value to be had there. So it is much more of an art than a science. I'm targeting Kyler as I am also targeting Anthony Richardson.
And I will say really quickly before we move on, Field, that's the way that I'm also approaching it. I go into the draft saying, hey, I want to target one of these quarterbacks. And if they come off the board before I can get to them, then you pivot and you move to somebody else. But that doesn't mean that I'm not trying to go in and see if I could get Anthony Richardson as my QB1. I'm just not willing to overpay for him.
Yep, sounds good.
All right, CJ Stroud, Field, you targeting him? Does he use his legs enough for you to target him, or is he a table for later in the draft?
Yeah, I think he's a table for later in the draft because I expect a growth from CJ Stroud. He is unbelievable, and he has a freaking loaded wide receiver room, even more so than it was last year when he lost Tank Dell midway through the season, and Tank Dell was still a rookie. Adding Stephon Diggs is nothing to shake a stick at. So I'm tabling him, though, just because, and this will become a theme as we talk about some of these quarterbacks, these non-running quarterbacks just have to be so elite, and guys can have excellent real-life seasons that don't produce unbelievable fantasy football seasons. And so I think CJ Stroud will absolutely be a top 10 quarterback. I just don't know. I feel like if you were to run the simulations, like the likelihood of him being a top 3 quarterback might be lower than some of these running quarterbacks that are also in that same tier.
Yep, I'm with you on that one. All right, Mike, how about this guy? Dak Prescott finishes QB3 last year. Are you targeting him or tabling him as a value?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm a target on Stroud as well. Just such a super high ceiling. And the same thing for Dak Prescott, where he's going in drafts. He's going, right around guys like Burrow, well after Stroud and Richardson. So for me, in that offense, pass heavy, they're going to score a lot. He had big numbers last year. I think, again, he's another kind of one of the forgotten men. I think Prescott definitely is a buy at his value, or at his ADP.
At his ADP for where he's at. I agree with you. Again, QB3 last season. He's being drafted as the quarterback 7 or 8 right now on our mock draft trials.
You guys just broke a rule. You're not allowed to speak logically about Dak Prescott. That's just not allowed.
That's not how you're allowed to do it.
No, you're not allowed to do that. Like, you have to actually have a stance. Like, Dak Prescott either has to be the next president of the United States or he has to be the worst quarterback in NFL history. There's no middle ground there.
Okay. Is it just Dak or is it all quarterbacks? Do I need to do that with Jalen Herz too?
No. You can be logical about Jalen Hurts. You're not allowed. You just can't do it.
Just can't be logical with that. Yeah. All right.
Can't do
it.
Yeah,
that's correct.
What about Hurts then, Field? Again, it's like the guy right behind Josh Allen. Is he a target, or you want to save and see if he falls to you?
No, he's a target. The problem is I haven't been landing on him as much because I've been so frequently targeting Josh Allen as well, right? But he would be not a consolation prize, but he would be my 1B to Josh Allen's 1A.
Okay.
Mike talked about it, though. Jalen Hurts, as we know, the addition of Saquon Barkley and the departure of Jason Kelce could lead to Jalen Hurts being a slightly less impactful runner at the goal line specifically, right? More opportunities for Saquon and just the tush push being a little bit less effective without Jason Kelce, who certainly was a big part of that play's success. But he's still on the short list for greatest running quarterbacks we've seen like the past 25 years. So Jalen Hurts could see his running role shrink, and he could still have 8 rushing touchdowns this season, which should be plenty good for a guy who has awesome weapons all the way around him, very, very high ceiling, and a high floor as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Mike, you just mentioned Joe Burrow. I'm assuming that you're targeting him based on everything you said previously.
That's a good guess.
Yeah.
Target.
All right.
For all the reasons I already said.
Everything you already said, which makes sense.
Nailed it.
I'm going to look at Lamar Jackson and say he's a guy that I am also targeting in drafts. He's my most drafted quarterback in the ESPN mock draft trials, a guy that I feel like again, coming into this Baltimore offense, adds Derrick Henry. You can tell me that maybe that's going to take some rushing value away from Lamar Jackson, but I think it's just going to open up even more value for him to be able to utilize his legs with the way they have to account for Derrick Henry and find his guys down the field as he progresses again as a passer. So I'm targeting Lamar Jackson in this year's drafts. And last one, Field Yates, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he had a down year last year. Is there any reason why you wouldn't target Patrick Mahomes because you think that's going to continue?
Well, per the data, and the data is the only thing that matters, Daniel, I think Patrick Mahomes is trash because I haven't drafted him once in 16 mocks so far. Yeah, flip that one. I think Patrick Mahomes is trash.
Let's do that.
Yeah. I remember when obviously it was a fantasy list, which you guys are all very aware of, but ESPN fantasy posted my top 10 quarterbacks with Josh leading the way, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes was like fourth, right? And man, the comment section was blown up. I'm like,
every time.
I'm a Chiefs guy. I freaking work there. Like, I love the Chiefs. Like, I'm always saying, you know who says nice things about Patrick Mahomes all the time? Literally everybody, because he's the best player on the planet, right? It just hasn't worked out that way. I would say this though with Mahomes is that for as ugly as it was last year throughout the season, like I don't think we have like shifted to like a new gear of Patrick Mahomes' career. But I also think that there's a chance that like the days of defenses having zero answers for the Chiefs, like they did for like that 3 or 4 year stretch, are over for two reasons. Tyreek Hill is no longer there, and Travis Kelce is no longer on a different planet as every other tight end, which I thought was a significant contributing factor to Patrick Mahomes' season without Tyreek Hill being as great as it was.
Yeah, I think he's going to rebound a little bit. He was so conservative last year too. They're going to push it down the field more this season, more big plays. I think he bounces back a little bit.
Yeah, I can't believe in this game that we've got one toss, and it's Anthony Richardson from Mike Clay. I love it. Again, this is part of what happens, though. In all honesty, as much as we're going to make fun of you, Mike, for this, like this is part of draft season, right? Sometimes a guy's price point just gets too high, and you've got to say, I can't. I got to be out until the market gets back to where he's supposed to be. So
correct. And yeah, that kind of stuff could change throughout the offseason. We do our like sleeper, bust, and breakouts article, and sometimes we have to change our answers later in the summer because the value starts to change on players. So no doubt about it. We'll see where Richardson's ADP eventually lands, but in our mocks, at least, it's out of control. It's too much, guys.